Your money is losing value, not because you made a bad investment, not because you spent too much last month, and not because you failed to follow some financial rule. It is happening because the system itself is built in a way that guarantees it. Every single day you hold cash without understanding what is working against it, you are falling behind. That is not an opinion. That is how the architecture of modern money functions. And once you see it clearly, you cannot unsee it. Most people think inflation is simply prices going up. You go to the grocery store, a loaf of bread costs more than it did 2 years ago, and you call that inflation. But that explanation is incomplete, and that incompleteness is exactly what keeps most people financially vulnerable. Prices rising is the symptom. It is the visible surface of something much deeper happening underneath. If you only focus on the symptom without understanding the cause, you will keep making decisions based on an incomplete picture, and incomplete pictures lead to incomplete strategies. The real story of inflation starts not at the checkout counter, but inside the financial system itself, long before any price tag changes. Inflation, at its core, happens when more money enters the system. Imagine a simple economy with 100 apples and $100. Each apple costs $1. Now imagine someone doubles the amount of money in circulation, so there are now $200, but still only 100 apples. Each apple now costs $2. The apples did not change. The supply did not shrink. What changed was the amount of money chasing those apples. That is the fundamental mechanic. When the supply of money grows faster than the supply of goods and services, each unit of currency becomes worth less. Not worthless overnight, but worth less over time, quietly and consistently. This is not a glitch. This is the predictable output of how money supply and real output interact in any economy. Central banks, like the Federal Reserve in the United States or the European Central Bank, are the institutions that manage this process. They do not print money in the literal sense most people imagine, but they control the conditions that determine how much money flows through the economy. They do this primarily through 3 levers: interest rates, money supply, and liquidity. When a central bank lowers interest rates, borrowing becomes cheaper. Businesses take out loans to expand. Consumers borrow to buy homes, cars, and goods. More borrowing means more money circulating in the economy. More money circulating without a matching increase in goods and services pushes prices upward. On the other side, when central banks raise interest rates, borrowing becomes more expensive. People and businesses slow down their spending. Less money moves through the system. This can cool inflation, but it also slows economic growth and can lead to job losses and reduced output. Every decision made at that level sends ripples through the entire economy, touching every paycheck, every savings account, and every price on every shelf. Here is where the picture gets more complicated and more important. When new money enters the economy, it does not reach everyone at the same time. It flows through the system in a specific order. Banks receive it first. Large financial institutions and asset holders benefit next. Corporations and major investors follow. By the time that new money trickles down to the average worker in the form of wages or purchasing power, prices have already adjusted upward. This is sometimes called the Cantillon effect, named after economist Richard Cantillon, who observed centuries ago that those closest to the source of new money benefit the most, while those furthest from it bear the cost. So while the money supply is expanding and asset prices are rising, the person working a fixed salary is watching their real purchasing power quietly erode. They did not receive the new money first. They received the inflation it caused. This is why your paycheck can feel exactly the same while your life feels increasingly expensive. Your rent goes up, groceries cost more, utilities rise, insurance premiums increase, but your salary stays flat or grows at a rate that does not keep pace with these changes. You are not standing still financially. You are moving backward, just slowly enough that it is easy to miss in any given month. Over 5 years, over 10 years, The gap becomes undeniable. People often blame themselves in this situation. They think they are not disciplined enough, not earning enough, not saving correctly. But the structural reality is that the system is designed in a way where those who do not understand it or do not position themselves accordingly lose ground over time. That is not a moral judgment. It is a mechanical one. The system is not broken. It is functioning exactly as it was designed to function. Inflation is not a random accident or a temporary inconvenience. It is a byproduct of how modern monetary systems operate. Governments need to fund spending. Central banks manage growth and stability. Credit expansion drives economic activity. All of these forces, working together, produce a baseline level of inflation that is considered normal and even desirable by policymakers. The target in many developed economies is around 2% per year. That sounds small, but 2% compounded over 20 years means prices roughly double. Your savings, if left untouched in a low-interest account, lose nearly half their real value in that same period. Understanding this does not mean the system is your enemy. It means you need to understand the rules of the game you are already playing, whether you chose to or not. Once you understand how inflation actually works, something shifts. You stop reacting to rising prices with frustration and start asking different questions. Why is this happening? Who benefits first? What does this mean for how I hold my assets? What does this mean for how I think about cash versus other stores of value? These are not questions reserved for economists or financial professionals. They are questions anyone can begin asking once they have a clear foundation. The goal is not to become an expert overnight. The goal is to stop operating on assumptions that were never fully explained to you. Most financial education focuses on budgeting and saving, which are important, but they are incomplete without an understanding of the environment those savings exist in. A full breakdown of how money actually works, including the mechanics covered here and the deeper layers beneath them, is linked in the description below. The content presented in this video is strictly for educational and informational purposes only. It does not constitute financial advice, investment advice, or any form of professional financial guidance. The concepts discussed are intended to provide general awareness about economic principles and how monetary systems function. Every individual's financial situation is unique, and decisions related to personal finance, investments, or economic strategy should always be made in consultation with a qualified financial professional. Past economic patterns do not guarantee future outcomes. Always conduct your own research and seek professional counsel before making any financial decisions.